Okay.
Right, with the kitchen fan on.
Yeah, huge.
All right, start us off.
All right. Welcome back to Jason and Rob review The Golden Bachelor. This is episode 8, I believe.
Yep.
Down to 2 contestants, just Teresa and Leslie left. And this was the, what is it, Dream Suites?
Fantasy Suites.
Fantasy
Suites.
Okay.
The episode you've all been waiting for.
Yes, yes. Everyone's been waiting for it. We all knew that it existed. I totally knew Fantasy Suites was a thing. But yeah, it was down to 2. They each had a 1-day date with Gary. He was robotic during the dates as he normally was, and then he was human when it was dinner. So that's what we had.
Yeah. First up, we had a conversation with Jesse
Yeah.
to start off the show. That was awkward.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, the Fantasy Suites are a time where they can be alone together, and I believe, as Gary put it when he was talking to Jesse, knock boots.
Correct.
So-
That is what he said.
Yep. So after making some comments about Jesse's parents knocking boots, they moved on to the first date. My first date was with Leslie, and what did they start the date off with?
Yeah, so they started off with a hug, as always, but then they went and propelled down some rocks.
Repelled.
What did I say?
Repelled.
Same thing, bro. They rappelled down some rocks next to a yeah, down a waterfall. It was interesting. Gary was like, "Good job. You're doing so good. You've got this." Like it was it was so good. But yeah, I don't know. They just went down rocks.
Yeah, and they conquered it.
They conquered
those rocks.
That they did.
And then I believe we cut to dinner. I'm assuming there was more that happened between that and it being nighttime, but we weren't really shown that for the purposes of time. So we got to dinner. Leslie and Gary Gary was talking about this whole episode, wanting to finally have those more intimate, deeper conversations. And so we asked Leslie, what are some hard questions that you can ask me? And the first question she leads off with is, what is the last time that you had sex? And they talk about that for a while. We're not going to get into details. And then they go, then he gives her a letter written by Jesse, which was interesting.
Yes.
And Jesse was the one unlocking this door to the fantasy suite for them. But then they go into the fantasy suite.
The cameras follow.
Yep.
And the cameras are on them for perhaps a lot longer than we would have liked. But yeah, they go into the suites, they talk, and then they start doing a lot of kissing on the bed. And it just, for half a minute, the camera is just on, showing. It was uncomfortable, to say the least.
Yep. And then it's morning.
Yep.
Just like that.
Yeah, the coffee was really good.
Hit the spot.
Yep.
So on to Teresa.
Yeah.
Their date started with horseback riding.
Yeah.
Call back to Faith
Yeah.
and her horseback ride that she had with Gary on her farm.
Yeah.
And during this horseback ride, Teresa notices that Gary's very quiet.
Yeah.
Gary's thinking very deeply right now. The robotic brain
Yeah.
is developing further.
CPU is processing.
We are growing new emotions. He is torn because he says he's on this date with Teresa and wants to be present in the moment, but he can't stop thinking about Leslie.
Yeah. It is, and yeah, it's just that way. He says it only happened for an hour and a half after conversation got started with Teresa later on in the episode, but it was just clear that he was not really interested in Teresa. And this whole thing of him not saying I love you to Teresa continues this episode. He loves saying I love you to Leslie, but Teresa gets none of it.
No love.
Yeah, no love.
So after their horseback ride and conversation on the bench, we go to their night date, which gets much less coverage. We find out that Teresa is very business-oriented, business-minded. She
Yeah.
got into day trading.
Girl boss.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. But she got into day trading, made a lot of money doing that, and then kind of used that to grow her wealth. Gary's very impressed by this.
Yeah.
Sees her as more responsible than he initially thought.
Yeah. A sugar mama, even.
Yes. So then he gives her the letter
Yep.
from Jesse.
I think it was basically the same thing. It was just like copy paste Teresa and horseback riding instead of rappelling. Yeah. So, yeah. Then they go to the fantasy suite, and it's literally the same exact thing. Just like conversation, and then kissing on bed, and then
morning.
Yep. There was lots of insinuations of sex in conversations, regardless of if it happened or not. There's just like whoever was feeding Gary the lines was feeding him lines to make it seem like they did.
Yeah.
And so
We got closer than ever. I feel like I saw you more than ever before.
yeah, Gary's seen more of me than he ever had. Like it was.
Yeah. And then we got another next episode.
And then the episode didn't end the season. So I know all of you at home are just like so excited that the show continues. As are we. 2 weeks from now, the season finale.
What's the Thursday night football game then?
I hope it's.
We got our statisticians looking at that right now.
Yeah. Analytics people are on it. While they're looking that up, I actually have a conspiracy theory that I'd like to talk about. I believe Gary chose Teresa over Faith because he wanted to make the decision of choosing Leslie easier. Because just like we've said, he has not really said "I love you" to Teresa. He's like, he implies it, but he doesn't say it. He did say "I love you" to Faith, and they did have like what looked like a genuinely strong connection. And so I truly believe the winner was chosen last week's episode, and that it'll be Leslie. Sorry, what did the
Seahawks Cowboys.
Seahawks Cowboys? That has potential to be a good game. It might be a late watching of the Bachelor.
Yes. Although, didn't they also say that it was going to be live? So I'm assuming they're going to show November 30th. I have no idea. Never watched Bachelor before. I think we're going to get, on November 30th in 2 weeks, a hour-long episode of finale, immediately followed by a live, episode of, updates from where they've been since the ending of the show. We have committed to watching the show out till it's ending, so we will watch that pre-recorded hour. We will only be watching that live episode if this gets to 1,000 views.
No, we didn't have to bring that up.
Well, it's already recorded and in the...
Yeah, and 20 people watched it. So,
we appreciate that. Please don't watch, don't like, and don't subscribe.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far in the video,
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Unless you're from Minnesota, I think that was the place that you're allowed to. But only Minnesotans. So Kevin Jackman, if you're out there, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.
Also, congrats on being a dad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big congrats. Brian, he's not saying it, but he's behind the camera. He also does you congrats.
And Grant, our statistician, also sends his well wishes as
Yeah.
well from the Thursday night.
Yeah. I know you did a lot of work, and that was really hard on you. And Abby was there for the ride, but tell her congrats as well.
And now, goodbye.